Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to another In the Frame. Today I'm going to talk about the Radiance box set Hard Boiled 3 pulp thrillers by Alain. Corneau, Police Python 357 Série Noire, and Le Choix d'Armes. Now, I just made a video of my film of the year, which is Police Python 357, so you can go have a look at that because it is an absolutely wonderful film starring Yves Montand. I'm going to talk about Série Noire with Patrick Dewaré, Manri Trianon, no relation, Bernard Blier, and also Choice of Arms, which is that one there, with Yves Montand, Catherine Deneuve, and Gerard Depardieu. Now, one of these was okay, and one of them is quite wonderful. Not quite Police Python 357, but pretty close. Now, I'll just go over the extras for these releases. Police Python 357 has a commentary by Mike White from 2024. There's a 15-minute piece by Maxim Jobowski on Police Python 357 source novel and adaptation, which is 15 minutes. And there's an archive interview with Alain Corneau and Francois Perrier from Belgian television from 1976, which is 5 minutes. For Série Noire, there's interviews with Alain Corneau, Patrick Dewaré, and Myriam Boyer, from Belgian television 1981, which is 11 minutes. Série Noire, The Darkness of the Soul, an archival documentary featuring cast and crew on the making of the film from 2013, which is 53 minutes long. Archival interview with Alain Corneau and Marie Trianon, 2002, which is 29 minutes long. A Hollyhock in a Cornfield, a visual essay about Jim Thompson adaptations for the screen by Paul Martovich from 2024, which is 30 minutes long. So lots of good stuff on Série Noire. And Choix d'Armes, a shooting Choice of Arms, interviews with the cast and crew, including behind the scenes footage from 1981, which is 22 minutes, which is very funny. Interviews with Deneuve, Montand, and Depardieu from the set from 1981, which is 18 minutes long. An interview with Manuel Lazic on Yves Montand in the 70s from 2024, which is 24 minutes long. And introduction by documentary filmmaker Jerome Winborn from 2024, which is 3 minutes long, and a trailer. So that's the extras. It's a wonderful box set, as we've now come to expect from Radiance. Each film has its own disc. There's the poster art for Choice of Arms in a better light, and again you get this really lovely set, of course yellow trim for pulp, you know, with interviews with Alain Corneau, who's no longer with us. So let's start with Série Noire, which is my least favourite of the three. It stars Patrick Dewaré, that's probably not how you say his name, as pretty much a low rent salesman, slash he works for a loan shark, I think, played by Bernard Blay, his usual Bernard Blay way. And he goes to this house where there's an old woman, and he sees a young woman in the window, and the old woman pretty much offers the young girl as payment. Now this film is cut. There is maybe one shot missing, because the young girl is 14. There's a shot when he goes into the room, and the young girl, we assume, takes off her clothes, but it comes up with the Protection of Children Act, because 1976, something like that. So it is cut quite fairly. And obviously he doesn't have sex with her. Who would? Interestingly, the 14-year-old girl is played by Marie Triangnon, who was Corneau's daughter. Yep. The French and young girls, but we won't mention Polanski or the director's cut of Leon, which has slightly more uncomfortable scenes. But he can't get this young girl out of his mind, and it kind of goes into, taxi driver, do you want help, and do you want out of this? He has a fairly caustic relationship with his wife, and for me it's that annoying line of, he is a scumbag, and it kind of tiptoes the line of a scumbag that I really am not interested in, to sometimes he is sort of rootable for, he is funny, so that's why for me the film's like a 3 out of 5, because I don't completely hate him, but I don't fully, I'm not fully engaged with him either. One of the people that he's trying to get money out of is a boxer. There is a plot about money. The young girl, who doesn't really talk much, tells him that the old woman has money, and that's the kind of main plot, is how is he going to get this money, because he owes money, being a kind of low rent scumbag that he is. Based on a Jim Thompson novel, who's a famous pulp writer. Again, some of it works, some of it doesn't. It's funny, it's the shortest film out of the 3 at 111 minutes, but it feels longer than the other 2, which is not a good sign. Police Python 357 is 125 minutes. Schwa d'Arm is 135 minutes. But Série Noire feels like the longest film out of the 3. It could have easily been 95. But again, we just get examples of him being a bit of a scumbag, so it's not as engaging as the other 2 films. Briefly, if you haven't watched my film of the year, Police Python 357, That stars Yves Montand and Francois Perrier as two police officers. Perrier's higher up than Montand. He's Montand's boss, and they both end up having an affair with the same young woman. Perrier is married to Simone Signoret, who's ill and is either bedridden or wheelchair bound, but they have an agreement they can see this young woman, and the young woman ends up dead, and one of them's innocent, one of them's guilty, and it's a game of cat and mouse. It's highly suspenseful. It has full of little surprises, twists and turns. It doesn't necessarily go the way you think it will go, and it's absolutely wonderful, and it's the best one out of the three. But a relatively close second is Le Choix d'Armes, Choice of Arms, which again stars Montand, Catherine Deneuve and Gérard Depardieu. So three legends of the game. Depardieu and another man break out of prison, and through bad luck and being set up, the other man is shot and injured, and they end up turning up at Montand and Deneuve, who are married, at their stables in their area of land, because Montand used to be a gangster, but now he's sorted his life, but he still looks out for the other man. He doesn't know Depardieu. Depardieu gives a wonderful performance here. He's like a wild animal, he's a loose cannon, but later in the film we kind of understand he does have a reason for his desperation, even though he doesn't really do things the right way. He does go off half-cocked. He's the main reason that they're in serious trouble through his actions. But unlike the character in Série Noire, Depardieu is a scumbag, but we get to know not necessarily why he's a scumbag, but certainly he has another side that Depardieu really shows off and sells really well. Again, I'm not the I'm not the biggest Depardieu fan, but he's really good in this. Again, he can just flip between complete psychopath, but then he does have a reason to live, even though he doesn't kind of go about it the best way. It's a wonderful film as Montand has to get back in the game. At one point he brings his band back together, which is kind of wonderful. Montand's kind of, because he's a tall guy, he kind of carries himself, he's kind of the previous boss in a previous life, but again he can't help getting involved and getting carried away before he kind of realises, wait a minute, this is too much. It's a perfect example of how violent men, through like misunderstandings, can end up getting themselves into trouble, getting their loved ones into trouble as collateral, over misunderstandings, over too much testosterone flying about instead of actually using your brain. And very much like Simone Signoret in Police Python 357, who was kind of the brains of the film, Deneuve. It doesn't have that much to do really, but she again is trying to be the sensible person, but once certain events happen, it can only go one way, unfortunately. Again, wonderful film, shows off a side of Paris, I think. It might not be Paris, but when they go to where Depardieu is on the run and hiding, it's not a very nice part of the neighbourhood, and then that clashes with where Montand is and Deneuve out in the country, this beautiful countryside, and then that's that clash of Montand, who's gotten out of the game, and Depardieu, who's stuck in the game, because of his own actions. There's a nice turn by the same actor who was in Chow Pantin, which is one of the best Radiances, whatever it is. It might be over there somewhere. That's his friend who has gotten out of the game, is miserable with a wife and kids, but that's still a better option than being in prison or being dead. So even his character has a wonderful arc as well. So it's really well written. Again, Corneau generally writes or co-writes these films, and the two Montands, because they are the best out of the three, because I think they're the best written ones, even though the Série Noire is the one from an adaptation, well, I suppose the first one's from an adaptation as well, but an adaptation of an American, Jim Thompson, and it doesn't work as well. Not necessarily the Jim Thompson aspect, I just think the script's not as good as the other two. But all in all, another wonderful box set by Radiance. As I said, we've kind of come to expect excellence from Radiance, and it certainly continues in this. Three wonderful films, apart from the middle one, which it's solid, it's still good, but again, there might be those of you out there who prefer that to the other two, but there's three wonderful hard-boiled sweets for you to chew, suck on and digest. So thanks so much for watching. Please let me know if you've seen any of these Corneau films and what you think of them, and hopefully you'll join me again for more episodes of In the Frame. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, saying farewell.